What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Dodge Reacts back with another video. Today we're reacting to NBA records that will never be broken. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share the video. Road 200 subscribers. Let's get right into it. Comment down below some records that you think will never be broken. It's interesting because people never thought the 72-10 Bulls record would be broken. But I seriously don't know if a team will ever break the Warriors 73-9 record. But I won't say it'll never be done. Like, oddly enough, this might be a hot take, but I believe one day, not saying anytime soon, somebody will break that 100-point record of Will's. But it won't be in like, people might discredit the record because I call it being in a game that goes into a bunch of overtimes if that record ever gets broken. But let's get right into the video.
In the world of sports, there has always been a fascination with records. Breaking a record and pushing the limit of what's possible has always been a trademark of the human race. From Roger Bannister's 4-minute mile to Usain Bolt's 9.58 and Michael Phelps' 8 gold medals at one Olympics, records are there to be broken. However, there are those records that stand the test of time and seem to be unbreakable. And here are 15 of the NBA's most unbreakable records. 107 points and a half by a team scoring
107 and a half. The way offense is heading, I want to say this record could be broken, but I want to see what his reasoning into why it can't be
7
broken.
points is not uncommon in the NBA, and passing 100 points is considered as normal as Barkley and Shaq arguing on Inside the NBA. However, if we tell you that was the score at the half of the game, then we got something extraordinary.
What was the final score of this game? And like, what's the most points ever scored by a team in a whole game?
Happened when the Suns played the Nuggets in 1990, as they somehow managed to lead 107-67 after the first half. It was the largest scoring output in one half of basketball. We don't see that number passed anytime soon.
Yeah, I don't know.
Wilt Chamberlain, 100 points in one game.
Like I said, I could see this record someday maybe being broken, but if it does get broken, I'm not as shaky as I used to be about this record. Well, but I would say, like I said, if this record ever gets broken, because Kobe scored 81 in a game, that's not too far off of 100. So, like I say, if someone do score 100 in a game, it's gonna be a game that goes into a bunch of overtimes. That's the only way I can see that happening. But at the same time, I don't know if this record will be broken. I'll give it to him.
We could make a video of unbeatable records just for Wilt Chamberlain.
Yeah, 55 rebounds in a game. I don't see that one being broken for sure.
NBA record books are filled with his name in numerous categories, but we're going to name just a few of the most important ones. If we're talking about Wilton records, we have to start with 100 points in one game, as one of the rarest accomplishments and what was one of the most iconic photos in the history of the game. This is a record that's hardly going to be broken ever. Well, because it's hard goddamn work to score 100 points in the course of a basketball game. Even with the three-point shot in today's era, it's extremely unrealistic. The only man who got close was Kobe when he scored 81, and he was one of the best scorers ever on an incredibly hot night. James Harden is the best scorer today, who has broken a few of Wilt's records already.
I couldn't see Harden.
Is only 61 points.
Well, actually, yeah,
so
he might be on to something. This record might not be
likely there to stay. Wilt, 48.5 minutes per game for a season. While theoretically someone could score 100, there is absolutely no chance that someone will ever play 48.5 minutes per game for a season. With 15-man rosters, load management, and trying to keep players as fresh as possible for the playoffs, modern players rarely average more than 48 minutes a game.
You're gonna get injured in the long run because that's gonna end up bad.
But
where
Wilt
the
did
point
during the
61-62
NBA season
where did
is that he played virtually every minute of every game, plus those games that had overtimes, that eventually led to him seemingly playing more minutes than the game's theoretical duration. In fact, Wilt only missed a total of 8 minutes of possible playing time that season. That also enabled him to set an NBA scoring record of 50.4 points a game, another unworldly number that's never going to be matched again. Jose Calderon, free throw percentage for a season. It's beautiful to watch basketball when a player gets in a zone. Commentators then often say, this guy can't miss.
I remember it was a bug on Google that said Jose Calderon was a billionaire, and I looked at that thing so puzzled. I'm like, Jose Calderon's a billionaire? What? He must have got so many business endeavors outside of basketball? But it was a glitch in the system.
can't miss for the whole season, that's when you get one of the NBA's most unbreakable records. Jose Calderon is a Spanish player who came to the NBA in 2005.
Well, he shot 100% from the field,
last
like
year.
from the free throw
He was
line or
always
something.
one of the best shooters in the league, and in the 08-09 season, he set a record for free throw shooting percentage for a season. Calderon shot 98.1% from the charity stripe that year, shattering the previous record by 3 percentage points. He only missed 3 free throws that entire year, going 151 from 154. Truly remarkable precision, and a record that probably will never be beaten. Bill Russell, championship totals.
Yeah, I don't see
We
nobody getting 11 rings. And then, like, another thing about Bill Russell, it was only 8 teams. Which, I'm not discrediting that man by any means. Because if it's less teams, it should be more of a chance of y'all to stop him. But, what I'm saying, the reason I brought that up is to say that with 30 teams, how long of a career in a dynasty you have to be on to win 11 rings? You have to be like one of those journeyman type players if you're going to win 11 rings.
Conversations about the best player of all time. We often hear the names of Jordan, and nowadays, LeBron James. And the debate usually starts and stops with those two names. The fans who grew up watching Jordan, and who were in the Jordan GOAT community, often, if not always, say that Jordan is better because he's got 6 championships, and LeBron has 3. What about Bill Russell then, who has 11 rings in 13 years he played in the league? Sure, the
11 rings in
NBA had
13.
8 teams back then, and other players were often working as carpenters or plumbers because the NBA salaries weren't lucrative, and the game wasn't near to what it is today. While the best player
Yeah,
of all
like that's what I'm
time
saying. Like
will always be
people be joking when they say that. Oh, he played against plumbers, but like seriously, like a lot of these players had to have summer jobs because NBA wasn't really popping off back then, and then it was during a segregation time too.
theme of discussion and subjective
Well, the end of
opinion.
that
The
time,
numbers and
probably.
championships will remain and speak for themselves. And we're pretty sure nobody will ever be that dominant as Bill Russell was in his era. So much so that he doesn't have enough fingers for all his championship rings. 1,192 consecutive games played by AC Green. Longevity records are hard to break because staying healthy is a very fickle thing, which players
And
don't
then
even
like
have
the
control
NBA is
over.
going
AC
into a way of like, well, more of like resting players now. Like, so I don't know. I don't know if I don't think this record will be broken.
Green was drafted by the Lakers in 1985, and in his second season, he missed 3 games due to injury. Other than that, he played in every game he was eligible for until he retired. His record of 1,192 consecutively played games is probably the hardest NBA record to break. Only 48 other people in the history of the league have played this amount of games. And to play them in a row without missing a single game is
Yeah, I'm about to say,
truly
playing that
remarkable.
many
Green
games
was also
for a
known for
career
remaining
is
a
crazy.
virgin throughout his career, which maybe had something to do with this record, and something we don't see becoming a trend with today's players.
Wait,
68-point
what was
margin of
his
victory,
trend?
becoming a virgin throughout a single game is truly remarkable. Green was also known for remaining a virgin throughout his career.
Okay, yeah, I wasn't
which
tripping. I thought that what he said. Interesting. So he's saying because I guess because whenever you have a sexual encounter, you're exchanging spirits with that. Hate to get deep, but spiritual reacts is in the building. Yeah, you're connecting soul ties to that person. But applaud to you for going your whole career like this. And I know that you had to fight the temptation of being a basketball player, and he was a big man, so he's tall. Tall dudes are the gems.
maybe had something to do with this record, and something we don't see becoming a trend with today's players. 68-point margin of victory. There are losses, and there are blowout losses. And then there are record-breaking losses like the Miami Heat suffered in 1991 against the Cleveland Cavaliers. Cavs were a contending team in the late 80s and early 90s, and it took Michael Jordan's The Shot to defeat them in 1989. The Miami Heat was a new NBA team, established in 1988.
Yeah, when you make a new NBA team, when a new NBA team come out, you got the players that you protect for expansion draft. Most teams are not protecting most teams are going to protect their good players. So, this was a team full of role players more than likely.
Players came from the expansion draft, and frankly, they weren't any good. That game between the Heat and the Cavs in 1991 remains a record for largest margin of victory in an NBA game, which ended up being a baffling 68 points, with the final score reading 148-80. Cavs gave them a beating of a lifetime, and we don't see this record being broken anytime soon in the modern NBA. Robert Parrish, career games. Robert Parrish, aka the Chief, is a holder of a record that requires a lot of time on the NBA basketball court.
Right.
Not only did Parrish play until he was 43, just like John Stockton and AC Green, he hardly missed any games. That's why
Yeah,
he's
like
the
players
record
back
holder
then
for
pride themselves on not missing games, and nowadays players will miss a game like it's
games
nothing.
played with 1,611. Even though Parrish was a center that received and gave a lot of bumps and bruises, he was almost never injured. He credits this to his light build of only 230 pounds for a 7-foot man, which helped the longevity of his
30
knees and
pounds
joints.
is a 7.
Similarly
Okay, yeah.
to Kareem
I guess 'cause he ain't had
Abdul-Jabbar,
much.
Parrish also claimed yoga was one of the main reasons that extended his career past 40 years of age.
Interesting.
21 seasons with one team, Dirk Nowitzki. Similar to Parrish, Dirk was also one of the guys who
Yeah, the
refused
way
to retire.
players
He
change
played into his
teams now.
40s. He
Yeah, the way players change teams now, I don't see this record being broken.
ultimately hung them up last year after 21 seasons and 1,522 regular season games. What makes Dirk special, other than his one-legged fadeaway, is that he played all of his 21
That
seasons
fadeaway
with
was
one ball
special.
club, the Dallas Mavericks. While playing 22 seasons is a daunting task in itself, playing for one franchise in an era of super teams, shorter contracts, and player movement makes this record highly unbreakable. But
Yeah, because
hey,
back in the
if
day,
Luka Doncic stays with Dallas.
back
and
in the
plays
day,
until
they would have like 10-year contracts. Back
he's 41.
But-
He might break the record of his idol and former teammate. Considering Luka is 21 right now in his second season, we'll have to wait 20 years to see that eventually. Mark Eaton,
I don't see Luka staying there
5.6
his
blocks
whole
per
career.
game season average.
5.6
Shot blocking has
blocks
always
per
been
game?
highly touted as a skill, and some people value a spectacular block more than a cool dunk. And the defining
Yeah, I
career
value
play
that
of the best
defense
player
more
of
than-
this generation is not a dunk or an assist, but a block. In the history of great shot
Blocks
blockers,
be having me
centers
like,
were always
ooh.
leading the way. From Bill Russell to Wilt, Kareem, and Hakeem, centers proved their value on the defensive end with size and length. Among those great shot blockers, nobody had such a spectacular blocking
People barely
season.
talk about
Mark
Mark
Eaton did
so.
in 84 to 85, despite being a 7'4", 275-pound
I mean, people
mountain
gonna
of a
say, "Oh, it's his height, it's his height," but most people that tall barely get blocks. For real. Like, I don't know if people notice that,
Eaton
but
was
most people
not
that
a
tall
very
don't
good
get that many
college
blocks.
player,
For
having
real.
played only sporadically for UCLA. After the advice from Wilt Chamberlain that his only focus in basketball should be blocking shots and passing the ball to his guards, Eaton's career changed for the better. He eventually got to the NBA at the age of 26
But you-
and immediately
Did y'all
became
know back in the day, like I think it was before Bill Russell or Wilt, one of them, they pioneered the block because before them, players jumping on defense wasn't considered the norm. And, you know, I think it was Bill Russell actually, and then Wilt followed suit. But like, jumping to contest a shot wasn't the norm. They just put their hands up like these. Crazy to think about.
became one of the best defensive centers in the league. And in his third season, he has set a record of 5.6 blocks per game and 456 blocks total, which still stands today, as well as the average
I
of
don't see that
3.5 blocks per
record getting
game
broken.
he has in an entire career. Most technicals in a season. Rasheed Wallace,
Yeah.
41.
Didn't they make it like you get suspended every 15, 16 technicals because of Rasheed Wallace? So there's no way that
There are
this would get
positive
broken
records, and there are negative ones. Rasheed Wallace was an
He was
extremely
definitely a
talented
hothead.
and reasonably successful basketball player who helped the Detroit Pistons win a championship in 2004. However, a fan favorite, Sheed, is most known for his quick temper on the court, especially during his time in Portland, which were dubbed Portland Jailblazers because of the characters like Sheed,
Jailblazers.
Zebo, Ruben Patterson, and others that caused havoc on and off the floor. Wallace got 41 technicals in the 2000-2001 season, a record that will hardly ever be broken, especially because in today's NBA, after the 15th tech, you get suspended one game for each further tech you receive. So, Sheed's record will likely stay forever. Ball don't lie. Most wins in a season. Golden State Warriors, 73. People always thought that the 72
Yeah, people thought that the
season
72
record of
and
the
10
Chicago
record
Bulls
wasn't
would
gonna
never
be
be
broken.
beaten.
That's what I
Then
said
came
in the intro.
2015-16 Warriors, who won a staggering 73 regular season games.
That was a tough
Changed
record to
basketball forever with the implementation of high-volume three-point shooting. While they ultimately lost the title after leading LeBron James and the Cavs 3-1 in the NBA Finals, this record will hardly ever be broken. Not in the era of load management and resting players, when hardly anybody plays.
I mean,
an entire
resting players
season
could
at
be
full
just the
strength.
trend
And
for the
because the
moment.
Warriors
We
lost
never
the
know.
title partly for being exhausted from the regular season, future coaches of a dominant NBA team will probably opt out for keeping his guys fresh in the playoffs and leaving this record intact. Most wins in a row, 71-72 Lakers.
Yeah, that was the 33
wins.
games in a row, and then
Similar-
Miami Heat thought they was gonna break that record with the big
Similarly
three.
to a
you
73-9
thought.
record for a season, load management and resting players act favorably towards records that require playing every game like it's the playoffs, which, as we all know, is simply not the case in the
Yeah,
modern
that's not
NBA.
really the best
That's why
idea,
a
I guess.
33-win streak that the 71-72 Lakers produced will likely remain. Wilt, Jerry West, Gail Goodrich, and Elgin Baylor formed one of the best teams ever in 71-72. They were on a tear that year, and they ultimately won a championship.
Yeah, I'm about to say,
the only
is it
teams
just
that
the
got
Wilt team
close
that won the
were the
championship?
2012-2013 Miami Heat, who won 27 games in a row, with a prime LeBron James leading the way, and the already mentioned 73-9 Warriors, who won 28 straight. John Stockton, career assists and steals total. When you have excellence and combine it with durability, you will come up with extraordinary results.
Yeah,
And that is the
he's
tale of
saying he
John
don't think the
Stockton's
steals-
career.
Okay, the steals record might not, but I don't know how many assists he had for a career, so I can't.
He was really good for a really long time. John almost never missed
John
games.
Stockton
and his
used to
suited
be overrated, but like I guess it's like a domino effect. Every time one person say, "No, I think this person's overrated," then everybody start coming out and say, "Oh, he's overrated. He's overrated." But then at that point, isn't you underrating them? And then it's the other way around. When if somebody make a video saying such and such is underrated, like they used to do that with Dame back in the day, and everybody, yeah, Dame is underrated. Dame's underrated. Now it overrates him.
up for all but 22 games in his illustrious 19-year NBA career. He's 5th all-time in games played, with 1,504 regular season games under his belt. If you want to describe Stockton as a player, the first thing that you'll say is that he was one of the best passers the game has ever seen, and
Well,
a
he just
tenacious
passed it to
defender.
Karl Malone.
Combining that with the numbers of games he
That's
played,
what people say.
it's no wonder he's the all-time leader in assists
He's
and
a-
steals. Stockton has assisted
I'm gonna say at least he's a top
15,806 times,
10 point
which is
guard of all time.
3,000 more than Jason Kidd, the next person on the list. For illustration, only 5 guys have exceeded 10,000 assists in their careers. When it comes to steals,
Hey, but I think this is the last record, and the computer's dying. Please be sure to like, comment, subscribe, share, roll to 200 subscribers, and I'm out. Peace.